What's up, guys? This is Cromar with TGN. Welcome you back to Mists of Pandaria and the Warlock. We're going to talk about Destruction, and specifically we're going to go over talents, abilities, and whatnot. Basically tell you what's changed with Destruction, which is a lot of stuff. So first of all, you see on the front pages here, you know, every spec has different core spells, and one of the things you'll notice is that Corruption's been taken away from Destruction. For example, Bane of Agony, you know, I think all the Banes actually. So, well, you do have Havoc, but it's a cooldown now. So everything's been changed radically. Chaos Bolt is incredibly powerful, and it's a core part of your rotation and whatnot. So we're going to go with these one by one and just talk about them. Now, I also want to talk about one quick thing. This is actually more universal, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but you notice that my mana is exactly 100k. All casters all mana users in Mists of Pandaria are changed to have a flat mana that only scales with level, not scales with an intellect. If you look at the spell cost, for example, Incinerate costs 20,000 mana. That's no joke, it really does cost 20,000 mana, but you notice my regen's pretty incredible. Where's my regen here? My regen's 41,000 per 5. Now the 41,000 regen is not that's not that for every single caster class. Most other casters have more normal, I guess you could say, methods of mana management. But for Destruction Warlock, I get the power of Chaotic Energy. And it's right here, it's one of the passives, and basically it just gives you 625% mana regen. That's it, only an extra 625. So as a Warlock, like, I'm just going to chain together a couple of the standard spells. I'm just going to use Immolate, Conflagrate, and Incinerate. As a Destruction, you basically have no mana concerns whatsoever. You only have to run out of mana if you start spamming an expensive spell like Fell Flames, which, as you see, has a super short cooldown, and it does drain my mana until I eventually run out, and then have to wait, you know, a little bit before I can start casting again, which isn't much. By comparison, I'll just show you very quickly here. The other specs do not have that Chaotic Energy. They instead have the old school life tab. So if you're playing Affliction or Demonology, nothing's really changed for you, but as Destruction, I wanted to highlight that basically you don't have mana anymore. You pretty much have energy. You have a blue energy bar. That's pretty much how it works, and it regenerates super fast. Okay, the next thing about Destruction you'll notice is Burning Embers. This is the new thing for Destruction. It's the new resource. It works kind of like Holy Power and whatnot, or combo points. Main difference is instead of getting a whole item at once, you get them very slowly. So you see, let me just cast some more and you'll see, not everything gives you points. It's different from spell to spell. Immolate gives you points on a critical strikes rather, but Incinerate gives you on every single cast. So you see it's building up, and when it highlights, it means you have a full Burning Ember. You can use it for a spell. You also get some from Fell Flames. Fell Flames is a great way to very quickly generate. Look how quickly I'm getting my embers up. You know, you could probably get a whole ember plus before you run out of mana. Now, once you have embers, notice how I'm on fire. Also, I have these green spheres. That's from a minor glyph. I'll show you that later. I can basically do, you know, whatever I want with these burning embers. I have a whole bunch of spells and cooldowns. I'll show you them later. But the main thing I want to show you is Chaos Bolt, which is kind of your core burning ember ability. Chaos Bolt. First, look at the cool tip. Well, here you go. I'll read the tooltip to you in a second. Watch the damage. Okay, it auto crits, right? And it's going to hit for a lot more once I actually do everything properly. But if you look at this, Chaos Bolt always crits, and if you look at the tooltip, it actually, your critical strike chance increases the crit damage. So you can still scale with crit strikes, with crit chance, which is incredible, and I can't wait to do some serious testing on these stats and find out what actually happens with that, if crit is that powerful. But your mastery does something interesting too. I'll show you that in a second as well. So yeah, that's one of your things, and there's other cooldowns. We'll go into that. Let's look at that in mastery while we're on the subject. Switch over to Destruction here. It's on the last page somewhere. Oh, there it is. Just saw it. Ember Storm increases the damage of select spells by a percentage, but also increases the effect of your burning ember consuming spells by a much larger percent. So increasing your mastery increases all those burning ember cooldowns, and it double increases your Chaos Bolt. I do believe it stacks. I'll probably test that some other time, but for now I'm just going to assume it stacks because based on the tooltip it seems like it does. But so you get double effectiveness out of your mastery points for Chaos Bolt. So crit and mastery scale your Chaos Bolt immensely. So my level of gear, which is only level 85, and I'm using a bunch of junk. This isn't even my, because I transferred this character over like a month and a half, 2 months ago, so my gear is actually much better on live. So this is actually pretty bad gear. I do have enough hit for 0% miss because they changed the hit tables a little bit. That's a subject for a different day. But my gear is still pretty abysmal, and it's partially PvP or whatnot. So if you're fully decked out, this thing is going to be ridiculous. And as the gear scales and scales, I can't wait to see the relationship between Mastery Crit and those Chaos Bolt. So let me just do a big Chaos Bolt hit too. I'm going to show you, first of all, Demon Soul's change is it increases damage by 30%. I know it says 27%. It's a thing. I'll show you that later. But just it's 30% by default, and so that stacks up with your Chaos Bolt. So let's go ahead and do that. I already that I cast. Yeah, there we go. Curse the Elements, and I'll just my Burning Ember's expired. So let me get these back. We'll just Fell Flame up to fill this thing up. Look at that. Look how fast that GCD is on Fell Flame. It's crazy. So there we go. Got a full one. Now, in order to spend this, I'm gonna go ahead and pop that Demon Soul. And boom, 121k. It was doing what, 80k before, 88. So yeah, 121k just with a little bit of finagling, and there's still more stuff you can do. That's your primary abilities. Your rotation, you know, is pretty simple. Immolate, Conflagrate, Incinerate. But then, I mean, this is your base rotation. Excuse me. This is not. Your whole rotation is not simple. Your base rotation is simple. Keep your Immolate up. I actually didn't need to refresh it there. And spam Conflagrate every time your backdraft is down. Now, one thing that has changed about Conflagrate, besides the fact the backdraft's built in, is that it has 2 charges, and the charges actually have a cooldown rather than the whole spell. So, like it says 1 here, in a couple seconds, it's going to jump up to 2. Yeah, there you go. So I have 2 charges, and I can hit 2 Conflagrates. And the reason that's useful is not because of backdraft, but because of the other ability. If your target is selected by Immolate, it dazes them, right? And then there's a glyph. I'll just show you this glyph now. If you have this glyph, you don't even have to have them immolated. So this is really useful in PvP. You can run at somebody, you get in range of them, and you just conflagrate them, and then they escape out of it somehow, and then you conflagrate them again with your extra charge. Like that, and then puts it back on them, and then they're dazed again. So that's actually really cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, before I get into talents, I'm going to go through each ability one by one to show you all the new stuff. Now, Drain Life, and also the changes. Drain Life has another change where instead of costing all the mana at once and being a short cast, it's a long cast, and it constantly drains your mana. So, you know, as this spec up, I mean, it doesn't cost any mana whatsoever, so I'm not worried at all about using it. But I think that because it's channeled longer, it's a little more convenient for PvE. You don't have to worry about bumping up against the global cooldown as you can with Affliction in live, so that's pretty cool. You know, the minimum global cooldown, I mean. So that's pretty helpful, but that's not that big of a change, I guess. Healthstone. Healthstone has charges now. Now this could be really good for arenas because you'll be able to have 3 Healthstones. You won't have to stop to recast your Healthstone. But other than arena, it's not really a balance. It's more of a quality of life thing. Like, let's say I need to take damage before I can use this. So let's take some damage real quick. And that's not too much, I don't think. Boom. So, ow, that was kind of close. So I hit my Healthstone hotkey and it heals me, right? It still activates the same cooldown as before, but it only uses up 1 charge. Now, at any time, I can still recast my Healthstone if I have enough, you know, spare time to cast it, which you really won't in arenas, but other situations you will, and then I can get my back up to 3. So I guess that could be useful in really high-intensity raids, too. It's just that, you know, most encounters, there's going to be, in the next 6 minutes, there's going to be some point where you can stop for a second and a half to recharge your Healthstone. So that's why I consider it not necessarily a balance change, but a quality of life change for everything except arenas. Okay, the next one I want to show you is actually really exciting, Rain of Fire. I'm going to show you a couple things, and then I'm going to show you a couple cooldowns and how they interact. First, my favorite passive in the whole world is Aftermath. Your Rain of Fire does not need to be channeled and will stun all enemies struck 3 times. So the stun, obviously, is really powerful, but it's the not having a channel that makes me, like, all giddy, right? And this isn't even necessarily for balance reasons. This is just because it's awesome. So watch this. Now, every time I cast it, it doesn't activate the channel, and I can just cast it again, and it keeps stacking up. Look at that. Look at that. How many of you were around for Warcraft 2? Do you remember how Blizzard worked and Death and Decay worked for Mages and Death Knights? They didn't channel it. What they did was they sat there and they casted it over and over and over again, and every time they cast it, they drained their mana, and it stacked up. That's exactly what's happening here, because it costs an absurd amount of mana, like 34k. So I can sit here and cast it, wait a little bit, cast it again, and whatnot. Now, there's another thing on Rain of Fire. Yeah, see, isn't that cool? It's like, yeah, it's like I'm a mage from Warcraft 2, except I'm fire instead of ice. I love it. So the other thing that's on here is that it increases if your target's immolated, it increases the damage of 50%. So obviously you want to immolate everybody, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But it also gives you a 25% chance to generate burning embers if target is immolated. So I'm going to use this on two enemies, and you can just kind of mentally picture this. But let's say I immolate 2 guys, right? And then I hit both of them, and now watch just with 2. Watch my burning embers just with 2. Okay, I'm hitting them, and my burning embers are occasionally going up. I mean, it's a little random, but every now and then I get a spike. And before, I mean, I just ran out of mana. I've almost got a whole burning ember out of it. That's really cool. Now extrapolate that over 25 targets. You know, it's pretty cool. Okay, it really goes together really well. Speaking of burning embers, I want to show you Fire and Brimstone. This is one of the big cooldowns for Destruction. It actually doesn't have a cooldown on it, but it uses the burning embers, so it's effectively a cooldown. But it means that your next spell that's listed here hits all targets. So immolates one of those spells. So how does that work with Rain of Fire? Well, just exactly how you think. I have a burning ember. There's no immolate on these targets. And so I hit Fire and Brimstone, and then I immolate, and it hits all the targets. Now, you got 10 enemies in a cluster, they're all immolated, and then you can immediately switch to your Rain of Fire spam. I mean, give me a break, it's amazing. I love it. So I'm super happy about this. I'm really stoked about this, actually. And it makes me, I mean, I barely played Destruction and Cataclysm. I didn't find it that exciting, but, and I was kind of annoyed by the way Chaos Bolt was sort of not really, didn't really have a presence in your rotation in PvE, more of a niche thing. But, I mean, the way this is designed, I just love it. I mean, I don't care if it underperforms. I'm gonna raid Destruction no matter what. It does not matter. Now, Demonology is also really interesting. We'll catch that in another video, but it's tough for me to decide, man. This Rain of Fire is too good. Alright, so that's Rain of Fire. That's one of the big ones. Now, there's a couple other minor things. Flames of Zoroth. This is a nice pet thing. If they kill your pet, one way or another, instant revive it once a minute. There's no cost on it, too, which is cool. We've got a Unending Resolve, which is a shield wall. Pretty simple. I already showed you that one. The circle's unchanged, more or less. Ember Tap. This is another Burning Ember one, and it actually can heal yourself for a huge chunk of life. Keep in mind this is affected by your mastery, so the more mastery you have, the more of a lifesaver you can use this as. Now, it is fairly expensive for the amount of heals, but it's a matter of surviving barely or not surviving, so I'd rather use it for surviving. But it's a really cool choice, you know, between damage and survivability that you have to make. You obviously wouldn't want to do that very often in PvE, but you might use it as a crutch to make up for a mistake, or if you're in a tough encounter and the healers aren't quite up to it because they're a little under-geared or whatever. I mean, there's a million different reasons why this, not just PvP, and PvE also, that you're going to love Ember Tap. I'm pretty impressed by that. Oh, let's see what else we have. Dark Intent. This is a lot different. Instead of casting on a single allied target, it's a simple buff like, you know, Power Fortitude or whatever. And it's a 10% buff. It's basically the old Demonic Knowledge talent. Instead of, you know, what it did before with the whole complicated deal where it gives your partner and yourself spell haste, and then when periodic damage crits, it gives you a buff, and it gives them a buff, and this, rather than trying to explain all that, you just say, okay, it's Demonic Knowledge, done. So, very, very simple buff that you keep up all the time. So, I think, Warlocks have always wanted to have one of these buffs, you know, they want their Mark of the Wild or their Power of Fortitude that they can cast in the group. There you go. So the next split I want to talk about is Bane of Havoc, or as they call it now, just Havoc. Significantly nerfed, I mean, dramatically nerfed from what it was in Cataclysm. It's, you know, it's not something you spec into, and it's got a 1.5 minute cooldown. And it only works the next 3 abilities. So once every 1.5 minutes you can hit multiple targets. And that doesn't seem like an amazing thing all the time. I need to get some Burning Embers built up real quick here. And I'm going to show you what I like to do with Bane of Havoc. Or with Havoc. I'm going to keep... I got to train myself to stop calling it Bane of Havoc. Okay, so now I have 3 saved up. Go ahead and also Curse of Elements on everything. Demonic Soul, Bane of Havoc on this target, and spend my 3 Burning Embers on Chaos Bolts. How cool is that? Look at that. Look at it. Look at it. Look at the damage. Woo! Okay. And I'm spent. Well, perfect. You get 3 abilities with your Bane of Havoc. Use them all 3 on Chaos Bolts. So yeah, that's what I like to do with that spell. It's definitely very high potential for massive burst damage on 2 different targets. So watch out, arenas. Do not, note to self, do not let a Destruction Warlock free cast in PvP, okay? Bad times will happen. What else do I have here? Fire and Brimstone we talked about. Shadow Burn is an interesting extra effect, which I'm going to go into more detail later. Notice that it costs 1 Burning Ember, but it also can restore Burning Ember. And Soulstone's been simplified. No longer create a stone. It just straight up casts it on the target, like, you know, like Druid Revive. So nothing special there. It's just a little bit of flavor lost for the character. That's all. Now for pet abilities, there's a really cool one for Imp I want to show you. Let's say Imp's attacking. I'm going to use Flee. I'm like, okay, Imp, you've been attacking the target. Let's catch up. I'm going to click Flee, and he jumps to me. I don't know. I just think that's funny. The jump is funny. So, yeah, stop attacking. Singe Magic, when it auto-casts now, if you put on an auto-cast, you'll only use it to remove CC, which is sweet. But there may be a million times and it's not all CC. It doesn't work for snares. So, you might want to turn off auto-cast for PvP and bind it like you would in the past. Also in PvE, there might be some situations in raids. I don't know for sure. Obviously, this is speculation, but it's something worth looking into. There might be situations in raid where you can purge an essential or a dangerous debuff and save your healer some mana and a global cooldown, and they might appreciate that. So there might be other reasons to take this off autocast. You'd hate to waste it on something really stupid when you can have it as a lifesaver sometimes. But yeah, I like that change. It actually adds a little bit of extra flavor to the Imp. So for talents, I notice I haven't selected any yet for this demonstration. I will do that now. I mean, I haven't, there's a lot of analysis that needs to go into this before we decide what's actually best for destruction. Hopefully, if the devs have done their job, it's very situational, and a lot of it can just go depend on what you like the best. So our first tier is healing. Now, Soul Leech, this is very similar to Siphon Life, which is a glyph I'll show you in a second when I get to it. It basically just means that a couple of your damage spells heal you. Now, look, Chaos Bolt hits for a lot of damage, so this is actually kind of nice, especially if you save up a bunch of embers and you start spamming Chaos Bolt like a madman. Dark Regeneration, big cooldown, and also increases healing received. I like it. And Harvest Life is basically Drain Life. It's in an AOE. I thought this would probably be really big for Affliction because they can bump it up with a bunch of other talents and whatnot. I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, it looks really cool too. Let's go hit a couple dummies with it. Yeah, I'm just gonna pick it, and it changes my target easy. Yeah, shut up. And there you go. It just hits multiple targets with the Drain Life. It looks cool. Yeah. So that's all it is. Real simple. And it actually, if I didn't mention, it actually transforms the spell Drain Life into Harvest Life. Anyway, so rank 2. These are all of your. This is your CC. Mortal Coil essentially gives you Death Coil. That's something I should have mentioned. You don't have standard Death Coil anymore. Yeah. Oh well. So Mortal Coil gives you Death Coil essentially. And it has a nice heal attached to it, which is pretty sweet. But Howl of Terror, this is your classic Howl of Terror. It's no longer a default spell. You have to choose between Death Coil and Howl of Terror. That's rough. Shadow Fury, this is your classic AoE stun. So again, you got more options. I mean, as Destruction in the past, you didn't have the option of instant Howl of Terror. But now you can choose between your classic Shadow Fury or your classic Howl of Terror. It's just a bummer to lose Death Coil if you choose one of these two. But I mean, I would say Shadow Fury is probably the best, mainly because it's a 30-second cooldown, and also you can take this with other specs. You can be Affliction PvP and take Shadow Fury, which is sweet. So it's hard to even. I mean, I don't even know. I'm just gonna pick Shadow Fury for the hell of it. Next one comes defensive stuff. Dark Bargain. This is really cool. It prevents all the damage, so it's like a bubble, except you take the damage as a dot afterwards. Soul Link, very simple, but when active, all damage and healing for your demon is shared. So this is a big plus and a big minus with the new version of Soul Link, which is crazy. It replaces health one, which is weird, but that's okay. I mean, I don't know if I'd use this in PvP. You know, your enemies can just target your demon and hit you with the damage, but still, that would be cool. I'd rather them kill the demon. I can always revive them with Flames of Zoroth, real quick. Sacrificer Pack is like your old classic Voidwalker sacrifice. It just gives you your health shield, and depends on how much actual health is taken. The difference, of course, is that it doesn't kill the pet. It only takes half their health. If you have no demon, your health is sacrificed instead. I like that. So it turns, it actually gives you more health than you spend. So this is actually, in my opinion, the most powerful one, because whether or not you have a demon up, the extra protection you get from this is pretty incredible. As Destruction, though, your imp doesn't have a whole lot of health, so maybe it's not as good for Destruction, but whatever. I'm just messing around with these. I can always, you know, break it if I don't want it. Anyway, Blood Fear. This is a replacement for Fear. It gives it a 5-second cooldown, but it makes it instant cast. Remember I told you that Death Strike is going away from Mortal Coil, or I'm sorry, Death Strike. Death Coil is going away from Mortal Coil. Well, guess what? Blood Fear is your replacement for your. It's only a 5-second cooldown. The only problem is it shares your. First, it's purgeable really easily. Second, it shares a diminishing return. So for advanced PvP, where you're cycling fears and whatnot, this would be a little tougher to use than Death Coil. But because the cooldown is so low, I mean, this is a no-brainer for me. I'll definitely be taking that. I might as well just take it now and not even mess around. Burning Rush. Instant drains 4% of your maximum health to increase your per second to increase. So you keep this up and you get a sprint and it burns away your health. This is also really nice for PvP, but obviously the Fear I think would be amazing for that because you don't want to drain your health in PvP. Unbound Will purges all of everything. So it's your trinket. It's your every man for himself or your trinket on a 1 minute cooldown. And it costs a huge amount of health, so you gotta be careful with it. You can't just if 9 people are attacking you and they stun you, you don't just use this to pop out of the stun because you're gonna lose that health and probably die. Now, my favorite tier, the Demon tier. I'll get to this one last because it's my favorite, but Grimoire Sacrifice. This is a permanent buff you put on yourself. You keep it up. It's a 2-minute cooldown, 15-minute duration, so it's essentially a permanent buff as long as you don't die in faster than 2 minutes. And it gives you a massive buff and get rid of your pet. So if you just don't want to manage a pet anymore, you can use this. Time and testing will tell to see if this is a good idea or not. But you do have to worry about losing your blood pact. So make sure that you have, if you're playing Destruction, make sure you, with your imp, make sure that you have someone in your party provide this buff. Next, Grimoire Service instantly summons the second demon. This is kind of neat, but it'd be pretty good for burst. You can get a second imp or whatever, or you can pop out maybe a succubus for emergency CC. I could see this totally being useful, but it's not very high on my list of priorities. I really like Grimoire Supremacy. I'm going to pick this real quick. I'm not going to go into too much deep analysis on this talent. I'm going to save that for Demonology video because it kind of fits more. But Grimoire of Supremacy gives you replacements. It gives you Felnip, Void Lord, Observer, and Shavara, and it also replaces the Felguard. It also replaces the hell. It replaces the Inferno with an Abyssal and a Demon Guard with a Terror Guard. Let's look at an Abyssal. Terror Guard isn't all that great looking, but let's check out the Abyssal. Yeah, pretty neat, huh? So the pet doesn't actually gain any new abilities. It just gains damage. 20% more health and 20% more damage than the weaker counterpart, and it's just cool. It's just cool. It's a different monster. I mean, I'll show you a Shavara too because they're awesome. And this is the replacement for the Succubus. Yeah, you get a Shavara now. How cool is that? Also renames a bunch of the spells and gives them more damage and stuff, and a couple extra abilities. But like I said, we're going to go into more detail in the other video. But I picked this just because it's awesome. That's it. For leveling, I think I might pick Grimoire with Sacrifice because the extra health regeneration, you know, for sustainability or whatever is pretty nice. But whatever. This is more fun. Last tier. Can't check these tiers out until I get this character to level 90, but I promise I will because I will be leveling this character to 90. Passive. Increases the area of your area effect spells by a ridiculous amount. Alright, that's very simple. Kil'jaeden's Cunning is it's basically like the thing that the shamans have in Cataclysm that they can cast while moving. Passively, well, here's kind of the shitty part. The passive effect, which is while the ability's on a cooldown, is that you get permanent cast and channel, but it increases the cast time by 50%. I want to point this out because it's a huge downside to this, and it also reduces your movement speed, which is like, what the I don't know, man. I wouldn't use this. This seems like an obviously not that great of an ability. I guess for PvP, it would be nice to be able to cast stuff. I mean, you can use your instant cast, of course, and it doesn't affect those. I mean, I guess I could drain life while running away with the flag in PvP. You know, I could. You can cast Fear while running without needing Blood Fear. There's advantages, but God, you would never use this in PvE. That would be a disaster. So forget that. But overall, I mean, that's just kind of a weird. I mean, the downside is so huge on this. It's hard to imagine using this. And then Archimonde's Vengeance is a little bit more normal. Pretty much just means that it reflects damage as thorns. So That's it. Manaros Fury. I think I would take this for fun. I can't wait to get 90 so I can take this to do my Rain of Fire madness and spam Rain of Fire all over the place on a million targets. I'll look like a total boss. Alright, so if that wasn't too boring, glyphs now. I'm only going to check on a couple glyphs, not all of them. Most of them are the same. Conflagrate glyph we already talked about. Dark Soul glyph. Now, I mentioned the whole 27% thing. This is where that comes from because I have it equipped. Dark Soul, while off cooldown, your ability passively grants you 10% effect, but reduces the power by 10%. So obviously, this is the math is not very complicated here. If you have this, it's a flat DPS increase. But you might be wondering why it doesn't reduce it to 20. See, I thought from the tooltip that it would be additive, so it would give you a 20% bonus instead of a 30% bonus. But it would be kind of OP if you had a permanent 30% passive crit bonus. So that's when it's not additive; it's multiplicative. So it takes 3% away from your buff and gives it to you passively. I think this is totally worth it. I see no downside to this. I mean, all you sacrifice is a tiny bit of burst damage from your Chaos Bolt. Yeah, I would definitely put this glyph in. I can't see myself not using it. Other simple glyphs. Demon Hunting is really cool, but this is for a different video. Demon Training. This seems so powerful to me. I can't. I don't see why I wouldn't use this. It just gives you a huge bonus for each of your demons. The Void Walker I don't care about. Felguard doesn't apply to me. Fell Hunter. You get healed by Devour Magic. That's like the old glyph of Fell Hunter. You get it built in while using other better glyphs, right? So that's cool. The other two effects, straight damage increase for Firebolt on Imp. No-brainer. Total no-brainer. Succubus Seduction ability. Remember I was talking about using Grimoire Service to pop out a Succubus for a quick emergency CC? If you have this glyph, which you should, it makes it way more useful. So that makes you think about using Grimoire Service instead of the cool one. That's a pretty neat tactic for PvE, especially for those challenge modes where CC is going to be very important. Okay, so those are the ones I picked. Other minor stuff. Hellstone doubles the effectiveness, turns it into a hot. That's kind of neat, but the reason I like Hellstone is for emergencies anyway. I don't think I would take that. Siphon Life, this is my third glyph. Siphon Life causes your Immolate or your Corruption. Corruption is for Affliction and Demonology now only. Immolate is for Destruction only. It'll heal you for 20%, so it kind of stacks up with the talent I was talking about before, which is Soul Leech. I mentioned that. Soul Leech and so both your Incinerate and your Immolate will heal you. I use the glyph, so I don't need Soul Leech, I don't think. I guess I would just take Harvest Life. It would be kind of nice for grinding, for leveling too, because I mean I love AoE leveling, so AoE grinding, so it'd be really cool to be able to combine, to be able to use Harvest, and in that case, if I have Siphon Life, I'm not even going to need Soul Leech at all. So Soul Consumption seems more like could be a good battleground for if you're killing a lot of stuff in battlegrounds. Basically, it heals you if you kill something with Chaos Bolt or Shadowburn. Very simple. Also good for leveling. Affliction, Affliction, Affliction. All right, here's the Burning Ember ones. Increases your maximum Burning Embers by 1. Basically, just means that you can save up your embers more. I don't know why I don't have this glyph, but whatever. It means you can save up an extra Burning Ember. I mean, you know, the possibilities are endless. You can chain 4 Chaos Bolts back to back instead of 3. I like that. There you go. Everlasting Affliction is pretty self-explanatory. Makes your Immolate easier to keep up. Minor glyphs. Oh, there's a really cool one I want to show you. Felsteed. Your Felsteed and Dreadseed can cross water and while running and leave a trail of flames. How can I not take that? I mean, come on. Give me a break. I could never not take that. I don't care if there's a better glyph in here. Verdant Spheres, I mentioned that earlier. I get my Burning Embers up and it gives me a little green sphere. Unending Breath is the old one, so I took that. Still useful. The rest of these either don't apply to me. Oh yeah, Crimson Banish. They promised us they were going to give us more visual minor glyphs, and they weren't kidding. Because they also have Soulwell, which gives you an eerie light on your Soulwell. That sounds neat. Okay, well I promised I was going to show you a couple things, so real quick, let me just show you Shadowburn in action. You can use it once you get low, pop it for a massive damage, and it gives you your whole Burning Ember back. So it actually costs the Burning Ember now. So that means if you use it, you know, properly, you actually get your Burning Ember back. The other option is if they don't die from the Shadowburn, or within 5 seconds of Shadowburn, I mean, then you get mana back instead, which is an interesting trade-off. I mean, I don't know. The mana use in this character is so easy. It doesn't seem like very much. It's just more like throwing you a little bone. Next, I want to go into an AoE situation, and let's get a bunch of enemies on me here. Good enough. We've got some Burning Embers, so I'm going to pop my Burning Ember. I'm going to pop Immolate, hit all of them with Immolate, and then start going nuts with Rain of Fire. Watch them all get stunned. Alright, let's spam it back here. Look at that. Look at that. I got a backdraft proc. It's already incineration. Yeah. That'd be nice in PvP. Yeah, how cool is that? Yeah, you don't have to visualize anymore. You can see it. Yeah. See, you pop your fire and brimstone, immolates everything, and then your ring of fire goes completely nuts. Take a look at my burning embers. I gained like 1.5 burning embers just from that small group, just from like 1 mana bar worth of fire. That's only 5 enemies. More enemies to gain even more. So after killing them, I can turn around, pop another burning ember, and then keep going completely nuts with rain of fire. I love it. I love it. Boy, my frame rate sucks here. Yeah, my frame rate's really bad for it's hardware issues. It's a long story, but they'll be fixed soon. So before I do any more serious content, I'll have frame rate issues solved. But anyway, so there's only one last thing, and we're gonna find some water. It seems to be working, and it does leave a pretty badass fire trail everywhere you go. So you know, if you want to be like, you know, Sam Elliott and Ghost Rider, there you go. So anyway, that's all for today. Can't wait to see you back over the next few days, over the next week or so. I'm going to be providing the other 2 videos in the series for Demonology and Affliction, and after that, moving on to other classes. I'm going to coordinate with our other TGN WoW directors to see what we haven't covered and go to those. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope Destruction looks fun to you. It certainly looks fun to me. I cannot wait to get level 90 and see what Destruction does at level 90. It's going to be really fun. So thanks for watching. This has been Cromar with TGN.